Live. So we are live, everybody. I am here right now with Zeralon and Tirirana. So I'm not showing them on screen, but like they're here. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hi guys.
There you go. So what we need is basically we're working on the opening credit scene, right? So it's a lot like this. Oh yeah, okay. So there's still this big gap in the middle that I haven't filled yet, and of course I'm going to be putting in names and whatnot. But so what I first need to do is figure out where I'm going to put, like, how long is the next scene going to run? So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to open up a notepad, like on the computer, right? I'm going to write down the starting frame and the ending frame. And that's our first step, is to figure out how long this is. But then we're going to start asking, like, the audience questions and stuff. So, how y'all been?
Pretty good. Not been working this week because of rain, so I've been monster hunting.
Yeah, I've been mostly resting my legs since I fell on Thursday, but I'm a lot better now, and that's most of what I did this week.
But are you better at walking now? Or are you gonna fall on air again?
I'm still hobbling around, but at least I'm not in pain anymore, and I count that as a total win.
All right. Also, Cal has been a member for 3 months. And the rabbit says, will we ever see the survivors of the Lexington again? That's not super likely, but it's also not impossible. So,
I still say that Lieutenant Tok should come back.
he's probably the best chance, as well as Dr. Tregan.
He's at least a Vulcan, so he can live that long, and
Tregan can too.
Yeah.
Right. But this next bit, we need to listen to the music so I can figure out where to put the break, right? So the first frame is going to be 1725, 1725. But then I need to listen to where a good spot is to have another cut. Alright, right there. So this is where we're going to have the next thing come in. So that means that we're going to go from 1725 to 1971. So that is going to be the next thing. Which means that I don't really need this thing open anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new general scene. And I don't... Sure, I'll save whatever changes I made. I don't care. Okay.
I was about to say 1971 was a great year, but I don't think it was.
I mean, I probably wasn't the worst year.
Yeah, it's
no 1942.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing we got to figure out though is what do we do for this scene? So first we're gonna append in a copy of the Lexington, or not the Lexington, the Kong Z. What am I talking about?
Yeah, not the Lexington. It blowed up.
It sure did. So yeah, we need a copy of the Lexington. That should be in here soon as my computer figures out, you know, how to do that, which might take a little while. So most of the action in this in the thing follows a left to right direction, and there's some up and down, up to down, and down to up. But I don't really want to do too much right to left because the audience is primarily people who speak English or other languages using the Latin script, which means for them, going right to left feels like you're going backwards, and I don't want that feeling. So, I don't need this.
Yeah, people going from right to left are always evil.
That's just objectively true. I'm also going to just automatically go to simplify this scene. So, where'd you go? Basically,
I still love that ship design.
This one?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty nice.
I love the Excelsior, but I think it still looks really awesome with the new nacelles.
Oh yeah, no, this is look. I didn't design this ship, so I'm not taking credit for it here. So now, one thing that I was thinking is, it might be interesting to get like an angle on the ship that we haven't got yet. So, like, maybe we could do something like this, right? Where like the camera is like here, or maybe even farther away. We come in like this, right? But then as it goes, we come in to the, well, we'll just put a keyframe here. And let's see. Ah, come on. Why is this being weird? All right. I'll slide this over so we can get another 3D view here. Come on. And then we get over to here, but then it has shifted over here. So that overall, it's got one of these feelings. But then I also don't want it to feel like the ship is just going nowhere, like it stopped. It's going to feel like the ship is going forward for the feeling of the opening credits, right? Because I want it to always feel like there's some progress being made. You're doing something. The ship is actively doing the Star Trek thing. So what I'm wondering is, what could we do to make that happen? So one option is we could have something around that is moving towards the camera that could give that illusion, like a fine particle effect or something. Another thing is we could have like some kind of celestial body that's getting closer.
Maybe something like a piece of debris, and like right about there, the debris can pass. That way, you can have the debris changing in size as it gets closer. Get a real nice illusion of speed that way.
Well, we can simulate that with just
piece of debris, or could be like an asteroid field, or.
I'm not sure if this is the right shot for it, and if it's too complicated or you want to do something like that. But I always love the shot of the Voyager opening, where the Voyager moves through the nebula or ionized cloud or whatever, and it's parting before it and changing color. I don't know if you know what I mean.
No, I do. The problem with that is I do not want to have to simulate.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's probably much too complicated to actually replicate.
So, I mean, I was wondering, why isn't my clipping changing? It's because I'm using the clipping on the viewport, not on the camera here. All right. So we'll just add a few zeros. All right, so we could do something flying by, like a piece of debris, like you said, by doing this, and then get this guy, like, I don't know, here. And then it will look like this. And of course, we would tweak, like, the timing and whatnot. That could work. I like that. I like having, like, a piece of debris or something like that. All right.
Well, and you could always scale the size up as it gets closer, so that it gives the illusion of a little more speed without you having to animate it at some ridiculous speed.
I mean, I'm okay with it animating at a ridiculous speed. The more realistic I do the animation, the more realistic it'll actually look in the end. So with things like motion blur and whatnot, I'd rather just actually animate it at the appropriate speed. Okay, we've got a few things. Azrael says, I thought you were using a Sovereign class USS Endurance. Nope. I mean, you would think that, given the name, but there's a reason for the name. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
This year's Best Animated Feature winner was Made in Blender. Really? That's really cool. Have a piece of the Lexington's debris fly across the ship. Oh, that's morbid. That might be a little bit too morbid. Oh, hey! Science Side Up is here. Awesome. Hey, Maddie, we are actually in the Kongzi voice chat if you want to come hang out.
Yeah, come and hang out with us, Maddie.
Okay, so we want this to be some kind of debris. So let's work on that.
Yeah, just making an exploded Oberth. Yeah, I know that's also too complicated for the scene, but exploded Oberth are everywhere in the universe according to Star Trek.
Why is it like this? Okay, whatever. Well, so the problem is I don't want to have to download or find or just recreate an entire part of a ship. This might be some somewhat less identifiable bits. So first, let's isolate this. So this is all we have to work with. It's just this guy. We're gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna come to geometry nodes. Okay. So, could you have a shuttle? I could have a shuttle. The only shuttle model I have right now, though, is the Type F shuttle from yeah. I'm probably gonna have to make like a Type 9 shuttle or something like that. Let's see what happens with debris.
It could just be some satellite or just some panel or something, yeah.
All right, so here's
big chunk of rock. There's lots of those in space.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to come up with just a debris generator, right? So first, I want to do. We're gonna distribute some points on this. So we're just gonna make this so this just automatically makes debris in whatever shape we decide, right? Okay. So then we're gonna add some instances on those points, and it's gonna be cube. Okay, so this is just instance a bunch of cubes on here, right? What we're going to do is we're going to randomize the scale. And I don't want there to be much variation in the height. Well, I actually want the height to be pretty low. We're going to say that this variation can go from 0.8 to 1.0. All right. I also really only want to be very long on one axis, right? So we're going to get like this idea that it's like structural bits, right? Okay. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do a here. I'm going to say transform geometry, and we're going to rotate it here on the x-axis by 90. Okay, and it's an important thing. There's a reason we do this, right? The other thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this guy. You are going to come over here, and then I'm going to reroute here. I'm going to divide these so it's about half and half. So we're going to say separate geometry, separate by point, random value. We're going to join. All right. So now it's got a bunch of random nonsense poking out, like it's some kind of piece of hull plating or something, right?
Piece of some sort of a manufactured item.
Right.
Yeah.
But we also want this to be bigger. So you're just going to grab another transform geometry just so I can have a separate control for just the overall scale.
The only node thing I've worked with so far has been Godot. And I gotta say, like when you're doing game programming with nodes, and every step of the way can do some sort of a transform or some sort of a something, it's great when something's wrong. It's like cool, any one of those steps I can fix it visually, but only one of them is going to fix it in the programming.
Right. All right. I want to introduce a little bit of random rotation, but not very much. So what we're going to do is we're going to redo this, and we're going to say, okay. Everything can vary by, and this is in radians, so you have to be careful because these numbers get really big. Minus 0.1 to 0.1. So if I plug this into the rotation, it'll just mess that very clean look up just a little bit, right? You can still see it's very clearly divided into horizontal and vertical, like bits, right? Okay. So now another cool thing that you can do is because this is procedural, I can change how this is shaped. I can go here. I can make like a L-shaped piece of debris. And this. Scale that down. Get another thing here. So that
I'm getting Comet vibes from it now.
rotate this down a little bit. I mean, that's probably too much. I don't want that much craziness going on. But, like,
Yeah.
I can make it so it's not a regularly shaped piece of debris. Okay.
It's a piece of old New York.
Right? So yeah, I'm just shrinking down little bits so it looks like it actually just got peeled off of something. I don't know, does that look like debris?
It does look very debris-like.
Okay. So then the other thing we need is we need this thing to rotate a bit. I want it to rotate in a rather complex way, though. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform geometry here at the end. And I'm going to have a combine YZ here. I'm going to go scene time. And I do want to set this to 30 frames per second because that's what our original video file was, right? I'm just going to put this here. I want it to rotate along. No, let's have it rotate along the line. The reason I'm doing it here is because that way I can also separate out different rotations specifically. So, like, you can see it's actually rotating, but then I can do something like I can say, okay, I have a math node, and you're going to also rotate on the z-axis, but at half the speed. So now it's tumbling in a complex manner. Right? Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. So, and then we'll just give it a little bit of tumble on the x-axis. So, give it like 0.1. Okay. Let's see. The rabbit says, how much do I have to super chat to get Ensign Witsit gets it? So the way that we're doing like auxiliary characters is that basically the plan is we're going to have them be named after channel members. So what you got to do is you got to have an alt who is named Ensign Witsit gets it. And then, or who's named Witsit gets it, and then we can do that. Okay, so we've got this bit of debris flying by. It still kind of feels like what we really have is it flying by the ship and not so much the ship going forward. So let's add a celestial object in that'll get a little bit bigger. Not by much, just a little bit, right? Because you usually think of like whatever celestial object you're nearby being just stationary. You measure distances and speeds to and from that nearby thing, right?
Yeah, speed is relative.
Yeah. Okay. Although we do also want to give this thing a material, so we'll just give it a stand-in material for now. So, oh, you're just called material? Well, I'm going to call you Debris. And we're going to set material. All right, and then we're just going to say that this is going to be a metallic BSDF for now, because that is what I have the patience for.
You see, it's only debris if it comes from the debris region of space. Other than that, it's only sparkling junk.
What about sparkling wreckage?
That's the no-name knockoff.
Okay.
So that's the wish.com version.
All right. So that looks pretty cool. All right. So now we need a new object. So I'm just going to put in a plane because it doesn't matter, because we're going to make a celestial object. They're pretty much all spheres, which means it's easy to make them in geometry nodes. But here's the next question. What do y'all want? Do you want a planet? Do you want a star? Do you want a black hole? Do you want a white dwarf, a neutron star, an asteroid? Like, what kind of thing do we actually want to see?
I would almost say that that would be really dependent on what you're seeing right before and right after are going to be, so you don't get a real harsh switch in your brightness or your colors on that.
So, let's take a look. I will open up the. You guys
I
won't see
think we
it.
have an
But,
asteroid field before that, but the question was what comes after, yeah.
well, we don't know
Yeah.
what comes after, right? So we can just figure out what comes
We can
after.
just go from
after,
there.
right, right. So, a ringed planet, says Becca Justiniano. Okay,
A
we
ringed
can do
planet
that.
would be really cool.
Ah, that sounds on. That
Well,
sounds
what
awesome.
kind of planet is it? Like, are we talking about like a big gas giant?
Yeah.
Are we talking
In
about? Sorry, go ahead.
in our solar system, of course, we have Saturn, but also I think Jupiter and Neptune have rings. But technically, it could be a terrestrial planet with rings.
Well,
So
so the shot before this has ice rings or an ice asteroid field or whatever, right? And the one
yeah,
before that has an M-class world. So we could do a gas giant. We don't have a gas giant anywhere in here yet.
Yeah, a gas giant would be cool.
What do you guys think in chat there? Would a gas giant work out? I think it might work.
I think it
Well,
should work perfectly fine.
yeah, and a gas giant's fun because you can always change the color to whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be any specific.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with a UV sphere. All right. And we're just going to say that that is going to be our... Okay.
Microplanet.
Well, I mean, we're going to make it much, much bigger. In fact, we're just going to
No,
do that now.
it's the planet from the Futurama opening.
Yes.
Yeah. But actually, no, though. We're going to give it about this size, and we're going to move it to about here. So we're going to turn on the viewport display, and we're going to get composition guides and get thirds in here. I can actually put this on a 1/3, and then we get over here, it'll be in the middle, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. That doesn't bother me at all. But do we want it farther away? Do that, and then we go to the that puts it over there. No, I don't like that.
Yeah, as long as we don't do Calpamos as the gas giant, we're good.
I mean, we could. Okay.
I mean, wrong franchise, but we could.
So if we start over here, that debris is not even close to the planet, so that's good. So this is going to be a forced perspective illusion, right? Where it's going to get a little bit closer. So basically, by the time we get here, here to lock in that location. And then by the time we get here, it's actually going to...
Yeah, so for anybody in the chat that doesn't know Calpamos, the LV-426, the moon that the Alien movie, the second one, Aliens, is on, Calpamos is the planet that moon is orbiting. And it just happens to be a gas giant with rings.
Ugh, I forgot to hit I on the initial location here. All right.
Let's just take off and nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to make sure.
Oh, I was not doing this right at all. All right. Well, we'll start here. Give the location. And then here, move it in just so it takes up that much. And then we will set this to be a vector, so that way it's a linear motion. Okay. Yeah, that planet definitely gets bigger.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Oh, but actually both sides aren't on vector, so that'll make it a little bit better. Okay. So yeah. That'll be a little bit better. And hopefully the rotation with the camera won't make the weird perspective too bad. Okay. Let's see. So now we have to make this a actual planet. So the first thing we're going to do is 32 by 16 is fine for the viewport, but it is not fine for the final render. So we're going to add in a switch. And this
One of
is
these
gonna
days,
be
I'm going to open your
integer.
planet tutorial and actually follow through it.
I mean, yeah, if you want to. So I'm just going to say this is going to be the output. Going to be 32 normally. If this is viewport, there we go. Basically, if it is the viewport, then it's only giving us 32. If it's not the viewport, it's going to give us 128. And then we're going to add in a math node. We're going to multiply this value by 2. Give us our segments here. Okay.
Blender is definitely on the list of programs I want to learn.
It is very nice. Well, what this also means is in the viewport here, I can turn this down as a whole bunch or just turn it up. And like, it'll be fine. It'll just change this. Okay, good. Good. So that's a planet. We're going to get out of, or actually we're going to hit shade smooth. Set shade smooth. So that way it's using smooth. It's basically smoothing out the normals across the faces. So what happens is here you can see that each normal is just across the entire face is parallel, and it's parallel to the normal facing of the face because I haven't set it to do anything else. But when you do set shade smooth, it actually even averages it out across the face with the neighbor's normals, which gives you a smooth look to it. Even though if you zoom in on the edges here, you can still see like there's a corner, there's a corner, there's a corner. When you're zoomed out though, can't really tell.
It's amazing how much we can do with computers since they don't actually know what a circle is.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do and they don't. Like, you can mathematically say, hey, make a surface that is equidistant from a point. And it'll kind of do it. But not really, though. All right, so, let's call this planet.
The thing is, there are multiple different rendering methods that actually can do circles. The problem is that they can't do a lot of other things well, so nobody uses them anymore.
Yeah, there is that. All right. So we're going to switch this to look dev for now, because we're going to start working on how this planet should look. So, why are you like that? Need to reduce this. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. For now, we're going to turn off all the extra Blender stuff, and we are going to go into the shader editor and new planet. But then I'm going to forget that I won't do anything unless I actually tell it to, because we're using geometry nodes. So set material to planet. There we go. Yeah, if I don't do that, then making a planet material won't actually do anything. All right, so we're going to start with roughness all the way up to 1, because basically, unless there's an ocean on the planet, you don't get specular reflections. Let's see. So, what kind of basic color do we want this thing to have? Overall, the tone of the...
Chat said blue-green.
Blue-green? Oh, okay. Maybe I missed that.
I think blue-green is always a solid option.
All right. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a mix color. And we're going to start out with a bluish color. And we're going to have a greener color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do nope, not wavelength. Wave texture. Okay. So this needs to be rotated 90 degrees. So I'm gonna see which way is 9. There we go. 90 degrees is going to give us some banding. Cool. But we don't want it to just be bands. We want there to be subtle variation within the bands. I also think there's probably too many bands. But Maddie, how many bands should there be? Maddie, you're here. You know about science. How many bands should there be? I feel like it's a lot fewer. Maybe this many.
I think the bands on a gas giant count as weather, right?
Yes, that's why I'm asking Maddie. She knows about the weather. She's our resident weatherologist, I think is what her degree is in.
That looks pretty close to Jupiter, looking at a picture of Jupiter, so...
Okay. All right, so we're also going to put this noise texture in. So this just looks like this bunch of crazy nonsense. But watch what happens when I say mix this color in here to this. And then I can lower this factor down. See, the higher I put it, the crazier and wavier the bands are. Yay. We just want a little bit, and we also want to increase the scale here, probably, so that they're fairly high level. And actually, maybe I want to have a mixture of, like, low amplitude and high amplitude noise. We can do that pretty easily by just having this one here. Putting a mix here, putting this here. And then, let's see. So, this is clearly too low amplitude. All right. So yeah, we have a nice little mix there. Did Maddie answer? Come on, Maddie. Are you still
Maddie
here?
has not answered.
You're killing me, Maddie. You're killing me. Okay. So the next thing we want to do though is add in a few dots here and there. So what we're gonna do is we are going to have a combine X, Y, Z. That's for a specific. Didn't mean to do that. You are going in here. Base color. Here we go. All right, so I want some Voronoi. Now you might think, like, why? What is this? This is nonsense. Trust me, I got this. We're gonna put in a color ramp. We're gonna swap this around here. And now I've got some little white dots.
Pretty sure technically 90% of reality is nonsense.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Yeah, and as far as trusting you on things, Dapper, I assume your scientific knowledge is well above mine on all fields. So if ever I'm in doubt, I'm just going to go with whatever Dapper says.
Well, millions of years of studying does that.
All right, so see what that does is it introduces some little like weird swirly bits that just deflect things a little bit, right? And we don't want to do it too much. We do want to do this, and actually we might want to do something like this where we not that. We duplicate this, toss this in. No, hold on. Control-Shift duplicate. There we go. Do this, and then do another one here. But instead of mix, it's going to be... No, it's still going to be mixed, and it's going to be really low. But we're going to mix in just a little bit from this. This is just an experimental thing. I'm not sure if I want to do this. I do kind of like that it has the fun little bands, but that's going to also mean I want to increase the size here. But that's still too much. There we go. That's more where I want it.
And
yeah. And then we can mess with this guy a little bit. We got an equatorial band, which is good.
Yeah, looks pretty good.
So what this is going to do, this is going to feed into the factor on this mixed color. So it will decide which color we are using based on the factor from all that crazy nonsense that we just did. So see, now we have a basic planet with some weird swirls here and there. I think there's actually probably too many of them, so I am going to lower this a little bit and then drag this guy in a little bit. We don't have quite... No, I want more than that. We're gonna...
That is something that's always
Make
fun
them
when you draw
bigger.
something like planets, because you want it to be recognizable as a planet. But since most of what everybody would recognize is our own solar system, you can't get too close to one of our planets.
Right.
Or they'll be like, "Oh, hey, look, that's Jupiter or that's Saturn." Like, no, it's not.
It
Well-
looks like Jupiter if Jupiter was Neptune.
Okay. I think this is successfully like not recognizably one of our planets in our solar
Yeah.
system.
It looks an appropriate level of alien.
So I'm not going to bother with trying to make these all look like they swirl in a particular direction or whatever. What we're going to do is we're going to work on having a ring next. Most people really don't like this. Guys, let me know how this planet is. You can also just look at it here. Right? So this. All right. We're probably going to put it like so it's not just straight up and down either.
That I was going to say a little angle to that.
Yeah, but we're going to start with it being just straight up and down just for the sake of
Makes sense.
making it easier to
Also,
model.
we will probably put the rings also at an angle. So
Well, the rings are actually going to be based around the equator, so that's what we're going to be doing next.
yeah,
It looks cool, but can the colors blend a little bit more? Yeah, we can do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put in a float curve. I do this right. Float curve. There we go. So basically, this is just a number from 0 to 1 that we have here. It'll take a little while. But we can adjust where that goes with this curve. So what we can do is we can make it so that it's a little bit less. We can do a few crazy stuff like this. We can do some stuff like this.
Oh, that's not bad.
that
I actually
looks
like
pretty
that.
good.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I really like that.
All right, let's see what happens if I lower this just a little bit. No, I don't like that as much. If I raise it a little. No, I like this. This is a pretty good float curve.
Yeah, that's great.
Becca, what do you think? I think that works pretty well. All right, so we're going to go back into geometry nodes. And we'll switch it to the look dev just so we can see how nice this looks. Okay, so we're going to do a curved circle. It doesn't really matter. We can do a mesh circle. Who cares? It'll actually be easier for me to do a mesh circle. Nope, not dual mesh. Come on, what are you doing? Mesh circle. Here we go. The other thing we're going to do is we're actually going to say, okay, the size of my UV sphere is 50. I'm going to put that as a value. We're going to call it planet size. It's going to say, oh, no, not 40. Come on, 50. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to say that the rings are going to start 1.2 planetary radii away. So we're going to say math. Let's multiply 1.2. All right, that's going to be the radius of the circle. We're going to have a join geometry. We can actually, see it. Okay. That's where our rings are going to start. We can change the inner radius here. And then this is also going to be coming in from here. So it'll also change just how smooth the circles are. So there we go. Make it green. I mean, what would be the chemistry that would give us actual green? I'm not really sure. We could. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to extrude geometry. Extrude mesh, but not from faces. We're going to go from edges. Right? And then we're going to have, so this determines the outer radius, but it also is determined by the inner radius. So if the inner radius gets bigger, so does the outer radius in a linear fashion, right? Okay, so that means we can set just how big we want them to be. Okay, so then, actually, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna use a repeat node. Wait, should we do that? No, I think we should just do this, do like separate rings in the material. That's gonna be easier. Because otherwise it's gonna require a lot of geometry. Okay. So, what do you guys think? Is that rings too big, too small? They start too close to the planet? What do you guys think? Should also actually take a look at it and still like.
I'll say I'm a sucker for either the great big disc rings like that or the two really thin rings that you see sometimes.
Okay.
That's the two ones I like. So you got one of the ones I like.
Well, we're gonna.
I think I'd probably take it out a little bit, so more distance to the planet and also a little bit bigger on the outside.
This.
Yeah, something like this. So you can see the space between the planet and the rings.
Right. Okay. So I'm also gonna have to copy this rather annoyingly. There's a better way to do this. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. Don't yell at me later.
I wouldn't yell at Dapper.
I mean,
he's 2 meters
weird.
tall and has lots of teeth.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it may sound weird, but he actually is a professional sometimes.
Sure. All right. So we're gonna. I mean, I guess we'll set this smooth. I don't know if it matters, but we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna set this to ring, so that we can actually make the rings through the material shader. Like the tilted rings, I think they look cooler. Well, the tilt is just going to be a matter of like the direction. So rings always end up going around the equator of the planet with the rings. If they're tilted, it's just because the planet is tilted relative to you. So
yeah.
All right, so let's go to layout here.
Technically, in space, every planet is, but in Star Trek, weirdly, everything happens on the same plane.
Right. All right, so here's the next thing we're going to do. We're going to get a gradient texture. We're going to take a look, and so we want this to be not linear, but spherical. We also want it based on the object coordinates, I think, probably.
Yeah, that is something both Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop do right at a couple points. They have scenes where there's a whole bunch of ships in space, and they're all at different angles and vectors, and they're all converging on a planet, but they're all at whatever they happen to be, instead of, all sitting upright relative to each other.
All right, so let's try 0.001. Nope. Let's try 0.005. Let's 0.025. Is that what I want? Nope, that's 0.0025. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a value. We're just gonna divide by 1,000, and we're just gonna do that rather than me trying to fiddle with the scale. Okay, so there is a nice gradient going through there. That's gonna be important. Okay, because that's gonna let us vary the color. Because I want the color to vary from inside to the outside. Basically, I want it to be more like the planet inside and less like the planet outside. So we're going to do a mix color. And we're going to do, this is going to be the factor. We're going to say, I want you to be this color. No, this color is going to be near the rings. And this color is going to be a little bit more. We're still going to make it a little bit more like this, but we're going to add in another color ramp. Not color ramp, sorry. Float curve. Float curve. What we're going to do is bring this over here. You can see that at the planet, it starts out pretty close to the color of the planet, and it gets a little bit yellow at the edge. Most people really hate that. Let me know. Do you guys hate that? Or is that like a thing that you actually think is pretty cool? We're also going to up the saturation on this, which is not very realistic, but I don't care. It's going to look cool. Okay. The next, so this is going to be base color here. All right. The next thing we need to do is get the actual rings going. What we're going to try to do is do a wave texture. There we go. We're going to look at this. The waves are also going to be object-based. Why is this? Why is this there? Oh, I have wavelength, not wave texture, because I'm an idiot. Wave texture, come on. Okay. Boy, is that tiny. We're gonna do rings.
It's very vague.
I think 90 here will. All right, we're gonna turn this way down. All right, so here we've got 3.1. All right, so we've got this. So, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna turn this down a bit more. So we're gonna do like 0.02. Those are gonna be like the main rings, right? No. About fine. Oh yeah, there we go. That could do something. All right, let's do that. Okay, so those will be the main divisions in the ring, right?
Sounds
they're a
good.
little even, but I don't know if I care that much. It's gonna be a fairly small set of rings from like a weird angle. It's not gonna matter that much if they're a little bit too even. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna Control Shift D, and we're gonna add in a bunch of like really tiny, like that, right? And we're gonna use a mix color. We're gonna multiply, right? Because if you have a field from 0 to 1 and you multiply them together, you still end up with a field from 0 to 1, but you basically like darkened all the areas together, which means that when we do this, it's gonna look like this. And well, sorry, like this. And then we're gonna multiply by 1. And now we have areas where, like, see, like right here, we have like a faint ring, but there's still something there, and it gets darker. And yeah, that's gonna work out pretty well. Okay, that's gonna be our. Was that gonna actually come through when we do this at like 10.8? No. All right, so we're gonna make these rings a little bit bigger. There we go. That'll actually come through. Okay, so we got main ring sections and big ring sections. Awesome. The next thing we need to do is we need to add in a transparent BSDF. Make sure it's all the way up to white as our color, because anything else will actually tint things behind it. And then we need a mix shader. No, mix shader. There we go. Combine this so that this is the vector, this is the transparent, and this is the color. And it, there you go. Rings. All right. Okay. So now, let's take a look at how this looks. And we should have cycles, GPU compute. Okay. The first thing we're going to do, though, is I'm going to save this. So this is going to be, give me a second while I figure out shot 6. Okay. Endurance shot 6 dot blend. Cool. All right. Let's see. Went to a veggie heavy carrot celery mixed into radish, mixed into ground beef and topped it with French dressing. That sounds pretty good. All right. So, let's see. Another thing we want to do is we're going to put on over in film, we're going to put in motion blur here. All right. So I'm going to... Actually, no, first we need a new background material and a new light source, because this point light is probably not going to do it.
Well, and the planet's going to be orbiting a star. You got to have a star, light coming from somewhere.
Right. Because right now this is what we have for lighting, and it's terrible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to put this to 3, and we're going to switch it to sun, and the angle is going to go down to 0.5. Okay. So let's see.
So my wifey just got home. She brought me a button-down shirt. It's covered in dinosaurs.
Nice. Let's turn back on our various things here. So I think this angle is a little extreme. All right. And then we're going to get a top-down view here with the sun. Which way are you facing, buddy? Oh, right. Let's turn. Yeah, we want it facing more towards the camera. Or do we? Do we want this backlit? It'll probably make the... we're going to do it only very slightly backlit. How about that? Yeah, I think that'll work.
That looks good.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay. So let's see. Next thing we need to do is we need to make a different background. So we're back to the shader editor. We go to the world. And this is nonsense. Just one gray background? Okay, first things first. Let's get a Voronoi texture. This is how you make stars, everybody. I'm going to show you the Dapper Dinosaur relatively quick way to make stars. So, if we look at this, we can see, also we're going to switch over to this, and we're going to switch this to world, scene world. So it's less of a problem for my GPU. So we're going to go color ramp. Okay, we're going to swap. We're going to do something similar to what we did before for the swirls on the planet. But we're going to make them stars. We're going to say 300. That actually looks pretty good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this, put it to like 450. Use a math node. Actually, no, I don't want a math node. I want a color ramp node. Color ramp. Okay. Nope. What am I talking about? I want a mixed color node. I know what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to go to add. We're going to add one on top of the other. And why are you being weird? Oh, right, because I should be doing it after the color ramp. Got it. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. So that gives us a bunch of whitish stars. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to put that in here. But we're going to have a separate background here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a light path node. So light path nodes let you separate out things by where the light path is going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the is camera ray. So this one right here. We're going to say, if it's a camera ray, then I want you to use these stars. And if it's not a camera ray, we're going to use this background. So we're going to add in a mix shader. Remember, the top is always 0, the bottom is always 1. 1 is true, 0 is false. So if it is true that the ray is a camera ray, then we use the bottom, because that's 1. True is 1. If it is not, then we can use this. And see, we can make the background actually arbitrarily light the models, but actually not be based on the stars. So that means that we can give this a little bit of ambient lighting without it becoming too dark. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this down just a bit so it is in fact dark, but you can still see a little bit through, right? So like if you look here, like you can still see stuff, but it's dark, which is unrealistic, but you know what? This is supposed to look good, not necessarily look realistic. Now, one thing that I'm a little bit worried about is that we don't have anything that is up. So, what I am going to do is I'm going to select this camera. We're going to turn back on all this nonsense. So, what we're going to do is, this is currently set to, all right, we're going to have this come up here instead. We're going to copy that, paste the, in here, put it back in here. All right, yeah, because everything was too low, right? There wasn't anything at the top. So now debris comes tumbling through, and it's getting a little bit closer. Okay. All right, that's not bad. So we also need to get some things for this debris here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to geometry nodes. And we're gonna circle in on this guy. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna make at least probably a couple debris options here. So I want to separate this out. So I want debris, debris 1. Well, actually, this can be. All right, we'll make this debris 0, debris 1. We'll add in a debris 2, and let's see, debris 4. We have 4 versions of debris. Okay. There we go. So we're also going to do the separate geometry like before. So what we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate that. All right. And we're going to have come here. The point is going to be instance. So let's see. Yep, so that is giving me about half of those. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this basically like iteratively. So we're going to have this come here, and it's going to go into another separate geometry. Here. And then another one down here. So now we have 4 separate geometries. We're going to do 4 of these. Each one is going to connect up to a different one. And then we're going to join them back together. All together. Okay. And just so we can see to make sure that this is working well, what we're going to do is we're just going to say, okay, each one is just going to have a different color. You're going to be set to debris 1. And now it does not seem to be working. Why are you not working? All right, we'll just put you at whatever works. Debris 2. Debris 2 is going to have a funky pink color. And debris 3 is going to have a yellow color for now. These are not permanent. These are just like for now. So, debris 3. Okay, so these are all going to go down a bit. I don't know why it's being a little bit weird there, but whatever it is. So now we have 4 different versions of this debris color, so we can actually vary them a little bit. Okay. Cool. All right. So, what is everyone's favorite metal? Don't all speak up at once.
Probably bismuth.
Bismuth. That is a nice choice. I appreciate that choice. So, as of now, this top one is going to be as close to a photorealistic bismuth as I can possibly get. I'm going to rename this, or no, that's the top one. So we're going to call this one bismuth. And hey, in the chat, put in your favorite metals so we can do metal stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to refractiveindex.info. This is a great website where you can find physical conductor values for metals. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a wavelength of 0.45. So 0.45 will give me the refractive index and the extinction coefficient at that wavelength. So, and I'm either going to get this backwards or I'm going to get it right. So, whatever. Start with 0.17365, which is according to Johnson and Christie, 1974, page 188, the refractive index for this wavelength, which is at, if you do nanometers, that is 0.188 to 1.937, which, if you are interested in the general sRGB color space, is the wavelength of light that is at full red. That is the reddest sRGB will display for you. That's where I'm getting these things. The extinction coefficient is 3.2745. Then we'll go to 0.55, which is going to give us the green, the wavelength you would get there. And this is going to be 2.0524. We're going to open up this preview just to make sure everything makes sense. And 3.8242. And then, let's see, 0.615 is the blue for sRGB. So the reason I'm doing sRGB is because that is going to be basically the color space that this image is going to ultimately be transformed to. And you want an RGB value for IOR and extinctions that reflect your color space. So there you go. So this is going to be 2.1866 and 4.1014. And I either got this right or backwards. Looks like I got it right because it is a bluish color on the metal. Awesome. All right, what is the next metal that we're doing, guys? Do I see any actual silver? Silver is a good one. All right.
Silver's good.
Let's look up AG silver. So once again, we are using Johnson and Christie 1972 for the measurements here. We will go to physical conductor and we will start at the bottom because I'm already at 615, I believe. Yep. Okay. So extinction coefficient is 4.1367. Index of refraction is a measly 0. Zero is already there. 0.5059,481. Okay. Then we'll go back up, or back to 5.5, where we get a 3.5974. I will actually put refractive index .info in the chat in case you are interested. I don't talk. So if this is something that you want to play around with, there you go. Refractive info, check it out. Okay, so 5.5. I did do that.
It is a very useful website, yeah.
This is going to be 0.059582. And then 0.45 is going to be 0.04 here. And 2.6484. There we go. That is physically accurate silver for debris 2. All right. What other metals do we have? Is anyone in sodium? Okay, we could do sodium. I mean, it's space. Why not? Who cares? We'll do sodium. I don't care. Let's see.
It's not like there's any liquid water around.
I mean, there is, but probably not much.
Yeah, not enough to make the sodium explode.
Correct. Sodium. We do not have the same reference, so instead we're going to Smith 1969 as our reference here. Okay. So, sodium. Let's see. For 0.45, oh, we're going to go to physical conductor here. We have a refractive index of 0.067583 and an extinction coefficient of 1.7987. All right, let's go to 0.55. Ooh, not 0.5, 0.55. There we go. All right, we have an IOR of 0.058195 and an extinction coefficient of 2.2522. Okay, and then finally for 0.615. Oh, yeah, sorry, 0.61. I put 0.6.15, which the computer was like, that's not valid. And you know what? That's fair. It's not. All right, so our refractive index is 0.0516.
But what if I want to have 2 decimal points in the same number?
Then the computer won't know what to do with it. And our extinction coefficient is 2.5482. There we go. There we go. That is sodium. All right. What other metals do we really like here? Palladium. Ooh. I have never checked on palladium. Yeah, that is nice. All right. So PB Palladium, there we go. PD, there we go. Palladium. All right. This is back to Johnson and Christie, 1974. So for 0.615, which is blue, we have a refractive index of 1.7460. That didn't seem to work.
That
did.
Now reminds me of a very stupid browser game that I played in high school, which was a sci-fi game that was a reskin of a fantasy game. And in a fantasy game, of course, you had iron and wood. So in the sci-fi game, they had titanium and woodium. Don't ask.
Okay. Yeah. So by the way, if you want to use this technique, you just have to remember the values of 0.45, 0.55, and 0.615, which is what you're just going to have to enter into the light wavelength. Which, I mean, it's not that hard to... It's three numbers. If you can't remember 3 numbers, I don't know. Write them down. 1.408.
What's my pin number again?
Well, first of all, why would you call it a pin number? The N is already stands
because it infuriates people. I have to enter it into the ATM machine.
Ugh, gross. All right. Oh, so here's something I just realized. I just did this whole thing on the one that was already supposed to be sodium. So, yeah, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna
have to go back.
So while we finish our Dappers a professional moment, fun fact about wood: when you're talking at like an interstellar like scale, wood is actually like more rare than diamonds.
That's true.
Once you go beyond the confines of Earth, gold and diamonds and uranium is all super common, but biological matter isn't, which actually means that if you look at a lot of sci-fi movies, aliens probably would not come to get our precious metals like in Battlefield Earth, or to get our water like in Independence Day, but they would probably want our wood and our meat, and if we are lucky, they are fine with taking the animals and not eating us.
Yeah, that does sound good.
I mean, you got to have that super rare blood from the horseshoe crab.
Okay, I've restored sodium. So we're going to go back to palladium on this one. And we'll just make sure it says palladium. Sorry, I screwed it up.
Okay. Don't have to apologize to us. We all find it entertaining.
Restored here.
There should be an inanimate carbon rod. So it can run the whole operation. All right, so the extinction coefficient we want 2.5482, and we want 0.05163. Okay, we're back on track, everybody. Crisis averted. 2.2522 awesome. And 0.058195. Also, you can change which reference you're using, and they will give you slightly different answers, but all of them should look pretty good. all of them should look identifiably like the metal in question. Here we've got 1.7.
And not every piece of metal looks the same, but
Yeah,
they should look like the metal they are supposed to look like.
Well, fun fact, in nature, you rarely find, actually a pure source of any metal, so they're all going to have some sort of impurities in them.
True. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is I am going to say we are going to add in a bevel node. Unfortunately, as far as I know, I don't think bevel works in looked at. No, it doesn't. So we're going to have to switch this over to cycles in order to actually see how it looks. Which, yeah, that's way too high. So the radius is going to come down to like 0.25. Oh, let's put it to 1.5.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, that's going to be a little bit better. All right, cool. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to mess with the roughness. So this is going to be stuff that I copy and paste between all of them. So we're going to Control-C, Control-V, put it into the norm. Come on, put it into the normal. Put it into the normal. Put it into the normal. There we go.
But Mom, I don't want to be normal.
Well, that's good. Because you're not.
I'll say I sure have never been normal, and quite frankly, neither has been my mother.
So, we're going to do ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion is a mathematical technique that basically what it does is it samples points on a surface and says how quickly does a ray cast from a random direction that is 180 degrees or less from the surface normal. How long does it take before it hits another object? And you set some radius that counts as infinity, which means it just doesn't, right? And then the lower that number is for all the different directions tested, the darker the color is. So to illustrate that, I'm going to do a math node. We're going to set this to power. Because this is going from 0 to 1. The higher I crank this, basically I'm turning up the contrast on this. So, yeah, as you can see here, basically things that are close by, and we're going to attach the normal to the bevel here. Oh, come on. So things that are really close by get really dark, and things that are not, like this, most of the surface points here don't actually connect to any other mesh because it's so far out. And so what we're going to do is we're going to drive that and a noise texture. And that's going to control our roughness. And I want the roughness to be relatively high, so we're also going to do a, come on, map range node. And this never goes actually from 0 to 1. It actually ends up going from more like 0.2 to 0.8. I'm going to say from 0.2 to 0.8, I want you to vary instead. You're going to it's sort of like an analog to normalizing, but instead of normalizing to 0 to 1, we're going to normalize to a different number. So we're going to go from 0.5 to 0.8. And then, so we're going to then have a mix color. We're going to mix that in here. Come on. And you're going to multiply. We're also going to turn this down a bit. Put it to like 5. All right, and we're also going to change this to object coordinates. And see what's going on a little bit better. There we go. So yeah, all this is going to plug into the roughness value. And that will give it more visual interest. So you can see there are parts that are darker and lighter and that reflects more exactly versus more diffusely. Then what we do is we just select all this stuff, deselect this. I'm going to hit Control-C a whole bunch of times because for some reason, my computer, well, Blender likes to be like, you didn't hit Control Z or Control C on those nodes. That's fake. It's like, no, it's not. It's not fake. I actually did want that. Plug it into roughness. Do it again here. Normal. You can see my computer is starting to chug a little bit. So we put this into roughness. And then roughness. And then plug this normal into this normal. All right, just to make sure, normal and roughness, yep. Normal and roughness, yep. Normal and roughness, yep. Normal and roughness, yep. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is, instead of just having the bevel as our only normal, we're going to beat this up a little bit with we're going to make some like crater type deals using, yep, Voronoi. Look, Voronoi is how you get random circles. So there's a lot of Voronoi that happens when you're using Blender a lot. Sorry. All right, so starting with this top one, which is bismuth, I guess, we're going to go add in a Voronoi texture. And we are going to use, object coordinates. Okay, and we're going to use a color ramp, like we have been doing before. Let's see. But this time, we're going to do it a little bit differently because we want the actual circles to be dark. We don't just want them to be dark. I want this to actually be a mid-tone. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to add in a lighter tone. So what this is going to do is, you see how it actually is lighter right at the edge, and then it darkens? That's going to make it feel like there's bits that are like raised. Okay, so then we're going to grab a noise texture, and we are going to also set that to an object coordinate so it's not weird and distorted or anything. And we are going to realize that it might be a problem because all of the rotation information is actually not in the object data, which might be a problem. Crap. That's a problem. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to figure out another minimally distorted version of the whatever this is, so that we can figure out how to do that. So I'm just gonna put a temporary color ramp in here, just to up the contrast so I can see what's going on. All right, so let's try normal. No. Is generated gonna work well enough? What do we do if we put them generated? You know, it's just gonna have to be generated. Generated is good enough. That's just what's gonna have to happen. So, okay, it's just gonna be ungenerated. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that, was I? Oops. All right, it's fine.
It happens.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, so then we're gonna add in a bump node. You are going to. We're gonna mix this in 50-50. That's gonna be the height. This is gonna be the normal. Then this is gonna be the new normal. And then this is gonna stay the rough. Oh, that is already the roughness. All right, and then we're going to dial in the strength on this bump map.
But the new normal is a very shitty cartoon series on X.
Okay, that's true. I was not thinking about that. That's just how it's going to be. All right, let's put this to 0.1 and see what happens. It's a little high, but this thing's going to be spinning around. I think it'll be fine. Okay, so
I think it looks good.
let's grab all this. And we're going to have to do a few changes here. Like, for one, we're going to have to put this to be generated. Sorry. The generated is also going to have to go here. This normal is going to come in here. Oh, nope, not height. Come on. Here, and then we're going to plug it in. And then that'll be fine. We're going to come in here. You're here. You're going to be the new object. Generated coordinates. And generated coordinates. Yeah, that's just how it's going to have to be. That's annoying. Oh well. And then finally, this guy here, who can come in here to the normal, place this normal, and then you are coordinates down to here and over here. I forgot which data goes where.
If you had thought about that earlier, was there a way to do that better, or is that just something you have to live with if you're
if I had
doing an
wanted
object
to,
like this?
if I had wanted to make this way more complicated, I could have tried to export UV maps for each of these things, but it ultimately would have really upped the memory that this scene would take up. So it's probably fine. All right, so that's how this looks now. I do want to see how does it look in a rendered view where we're actually using like our cycles or like non-biased render engine.
And Dapper, the normal
Super
data goes
bright.
in TNG, and the purple one goes in lower decks. That's which data goes where.
Yeah, the purple data did go in lower decks. All right, so it's really bright.
But is it data or data?
It's data.
It's data. He corrects on that one.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Also, this is too faint. So these rings are too faint. So we're gonna fix that first. That's gonna be our first thing. So let's bring this to the shader editor. We're on rings. So the first thing we're gonna do is make a ramp. A ramp. Okay. So on this white is opacity, basically. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna up the opacity. That's better. Yeah, that's actually noticeable. That looks like there's rings. Are they the brightest rings? No, but that's okay because they're also underlit. And I just want to make sure that they actually look like they are there. So these stars might be a little big. We'll see how it looks. Okay. This is too bright though. So what can we do to bring this down in brightness?
Also, I feel now that it looks a little bit more spiky. It's maybe a bit too close to the ship.
But I don't know. I don't know if I want
know.
to take the time to change that right now.
Yeah.
All right. So what can we do to bring this down a bit? Ooh, I have an idea. Here's something we can do to bring it down. We are going to give it so that it has some kind of like interior darkness to it. So we're going to focus in on this guy. Oh, I don't have it selected. All right. So let's isolate this guy. We actually are going to have to go back to rendered view to make this really look good. All right. Let's turn off all this nonsense. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a diffuse BSDF, and it's going to just be black. Blacker than the blackest black times infinity. And I'm going to add in an ambient occlusion node. And we're going to add in a math node. We're going to power. Power is going to be... Yup. All right, so then we're going to add in a mix shader. Mix shader, there we go. So wherever this is black, it's also going to be black. Wherever it's white, it's going to be whatever the thing is. And that will significantly decrease how bright this is, while retaining a lot of that cool color grid and whatever else variation, right? So let's put this in. Need this in here. So let's copy that way. Ooh. Clicked on the third one instead of the second one. Doesn't really matter. As long as I get all of them. In here. And then you do this. Okay, so now they're all significantly darker. It looks a little bit more, I don't know, brooding. But I'm also actually going to reduce just how many spikes there are. It's okay if it's a little see-through. This is just random debris, right? So the way we're going to do that is we're just going to lower the total number of things here. So let's put this to 5, see how that looks. It's still really dense. So let's there we go. Is it separated though? Yeah, it's not separated into a few different chunks. So we'll just play around with the seed. Maybe up this a little bit until that doesn't seem to be the case. Well, maybe I will change the probability. Oh, wait, what's happening? You should be coming in here, shouldn't you? Yeah, okay, that's partly part of what the problem was. Why does it all look... Oh, okay, because I'm looking at the wrong axis. Alright, that doesn't look like it's divided into a whole bunch of pieces. It's also less than half as dense, which means it's going to be better.
It's nice and solid.
Yeah. Right. So take a look at how that looks in rendered view. Have I seen the Sesame Street sketch Twin Beaks? No, but that sounds great. I like that idea.
That sounds great, yeah.
So then we're going to go over to here and see. Okay. That. All right. Okay, so this should work. This is our basic animation. So the next thing we need to do is we actually need to make it so that it actually fits into the time frame that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say set this start at 1, but you're going to be 1971 minus 1725. We get 246 frames, which, you know what? That might just be fine anyway. We might not actually have to adjust the animations.
I say that's a little over 8 seconds. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's great by me. You know, just to be safe, I'm actually going to set it back to 250, and if we need to, I can crop it later in the editor. All right, it's fine. Everything's fine. That's awesome. All right, so one of the last things we're going to have to do is figure out things like color settings and whatnot. So we come down to here for color management. We're in AGX, and I want this set. Let's see what it looks like on low contrast. Right? It shows us a little bit more of the shadowed areas. We're probably not going to go high contrast, but yeah, that's too dark. All right, so we're going to go very low? No, just low contrast. Go medium low. We actually do like medium low better. Okay. So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the render button. And while it renders, I am going to switch this to the image editor, set this to render result. So you guys should be able to see it. I'm going to mute on my end, and I'm going to go grab myself another beverage because I am a little on the thirsty side. So I will
beverages are important.
Yep. So I will mute, and I will be back in just a little bit after I grab a beverage. You guys can keep talking to the chat or whomever. Do what you want.
Awesome. Dapper's left us in charge of the chat. No impending disasters there.
Yes, everyone post their favorite slurs. Better don't. We don't want Dapper to get banned.
No, we got to be nice to Dapper's channel. He's kind enough to let us on. We got to take care of it.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm very excited for this this next Star Trek campaign.
Definitely. I was really excited for the original series one, but yeah, I'm more a fan of TNG.
I've said it on stream a couple times, but prior to Dapper letting me in on this, I had not watched any Star Trek hardly at all, just an episode here or there, and now I'm going through and watching all of them, and randomly learning Klingon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to Dapper for my Monster Hunter automated callouts that pops up text for everybody in the group. I'm going to have to slowly start translating them all to Klingon. Which right now, all of mine are in English except for 2 that are in French. And if you play Monster Hunter, you know which ones are in French.
I've never played Monster Hunter. I think I own World, but I never had anyone to play with, and it doesn't run smooth on my system, so
that's sad. World's pretty good. I started with Monster Hunter 1 way back on PS2, which has the jankiest control system ever. And then I quit playing for a long time. I came back for World and Generations, and I've been back in since.
It definitely sounds like an interesting game, yeah.
I mean, it has giant crabs. That's all that matters. It's got giant crabs.
What more do you need?
No, thanks to Dapper, I'm going to have to start slowly translating all of my little shout outs into Klingon so that every time I do something, it shouts at all my other party members in Klingon.
That sounds a little bit like the meme of life is too short, tell everyone you love them. But life is also scary, so tell them in shouted German.
Very, very true.
Okay, I am back, and I see that we are already done rendering. That was fast.
Yeah.
So, we're going to do...
We committed minimal war crimes while you were gone.
Oh, good.
We are not countries, so we can't commit war crimes.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, for it to be a war crime, you have to be at war, and if you are, we could be a terrorist organizations, but as a terrorist organization, we technically can't commit a war crime. Which is why hollow point ammunition, for example, is legal for police or tear gas, but not for soldiers, because that would be a war crime. But you can use it on your own population because that's not war.
So what I am doing now is I am grabbing a film emulation node that I made. And it has been sort of like the look I'm doing on this show. So it has like 120 operations or something, and it will give us a film-like look. Now we're turning down the glare intensity by a lot.
I was just about to say, oh, is this the JJ verse?
Yeah,
I was
right?
saying we just went into the 80s, like really hard into the 80s there.
So this does a few things. One of the first things it does is it applies a chromatic aberration, so you can see how the color channels are being separated out, like red in the, towards the center, blue towards the edge. That reflects the fact that real-life lenses don't have the same IOR for all wavelengths of light. So, another thing that it's doing is it's really visible here. You see how the really bright parts have a little bit of a red fringe? That is a thing that happens to film called halation, which, because of the various chemicals that film is actually made of, really, really bright lights have a tendency to bounce around in the red layer and oversaturate the red part. So you get a little bit of halation. The jitter just reflects the fact that there's like weird film grain, and so that's what this kind of back and forth colors you can see here, but we're turning it way down because I don't want it to be a strong effect. Glare intensity is exactly what you would think it is. The higher it is, the brighter these glare effects are. And then by putting in my actual... So technically what numbers you use here don't matter per se. All that matters is the actual ratio between them. But for ease of use, I have it set so that it's just whatever my resolution is. And that changes it to give it a sort of anamorphic look. So like, for instance, if I put this way down, right, like 5, you'll notice that I get pretty much just horizontal lens flare, right? Whereas if I put it equal to whatever the value is, so in this case 1920, I will get circular lens flares when it finishes, right? So look, everything's pretty good. But my idea is that this was filmed on square film, but then it was filmed with an anamorphic lens, which means I'm putting this to 1080 so that it looks like it was filmed on a circular lens, and then it had like not a circular lens, sorry, an anamorphic lens, so that it could later be stretched out in post. All right,
Everyone liked the Animorphs; they were great.
Animorphs were pretty great. And there's one thing I don't like, and it's that the planet isn't dark enough on the dark side.
Yeah.
So let's see. That's the one thing I really don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I am going to change the world settings. So if I put this back to 3D viewport, right? And I go over here, we get a look at the world settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this world shader here so that it's low enough that the planet is almost black. Well, 0 is definitely going to make it black, but let's see what 0.1 does. Okay, I do like that. It's actually not that bad on the dark parts of the ship, but let's see what it looks like over here. I'll be a little bit closer. Yeah, that is a little too dark. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in an area light. So this is just cheating. I'm just gonna cheat, basically. I'm gonna put this. Nope, it actually was where I wanted it. So this is just gonna be here. It's going to be about this big. It's going to go here. Okay. So this is just cheating ambient light, basically. So what this does is it makes light that comes out parallel to the surface. And we're gonna up it considerably. We're gonna say what's gonna look like at 1,000. Pretty good actually. So yeah, that's just gonna fake some ambient light on the early frames and without affecting the planet. So let's go back here and let's go to our image editor. It's still set to render result. First, you know what I'm going to do before I forget? I'm going to take external data and pack it. So that way all the external files like textures and whatnot, of which they're just for the Kongzi, are all going to be packed into the file. So the file won't have any external reference, which is good for putting it on Sheetbit, which is, what I'm going to eventually do. Okay. So let's try it again. We're going to put this in slot 2 so we can compare. And yeah. So, I don't know. What do people think about the whole, me giving you a behind-the-scenes look as to how we do the credits and the art external shots and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys think? Is that fun? Is it worthless? I mean, some of you are here, so I guess some of you find it fun. But yeah, give me some feedback. We'll start with our voice chat guys.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it. I like getting a kind of a behind the scenes look at this and getting some insight into how Blender works.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, that was not for me. Team ONB Formula One Dog Racing says, I enjoyed it. Well, that's good. All right. Already, I'm liking the planet better.
Yeah, it looks way better like that.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
All right, but there is one thing that I'm concerned with the planet, and it is that I don't see any of the swirls.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm probably going to rotate the planet until I do see the swirls. Yeah, it'll probably be something I do. But let's see how the final shot looks. And I'm still not convinced that these rings are bright enough. But I worry that if I rotate them the other way, the sight lines on the frames won't be as good. But I also don't want to light it from the top right, which is an annoying conundrum. So I might just have to turn up the opacity more, which will be weird because mostly they're getting lit by bounce lighting from the planet.
Can you make them more white?
Yeah.
That would give you the illusion that they were being lit more without actually lighting them more.
That's a good point. Yeah, well, let's see what we can do here. All right, so we'll go to... Actually, what we're going to do is we're also going to put the compositor on for the camera. So when things are in the camera field, we see them with the compositing effects. That'll make it a little bit easier to actually see what's going to happen. All right, so let's go back to the shader editor, set this to object, make sure we're on ring. Yep. All right, so first, we actually are going to up the opacity a little bit. But then, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cheat a little bit. First, we're going to do an add shader. And then what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this, but then I'm going to put in a hue saturation value node. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the saturation to like 0.5, the value to 1.5, I'm just gonna add these together. And this is cheating. I'm breaking the laws of physics.
That's fine. Star Trek does that all the time.
That's true. They really do. And
Yeah.
let's see. That definitely makes the rings much, much more visible. I might do it again. I'm gonna iterate that.
hmm
So I just had a mini panic moment. I went to refill my whiskey, and I had no ice. I thought I was
Uh-oh.
gonna have to drink room temperature whiskey, but then I remembered I have some whiskey stones in the freezer, so crisis averted.
Oh, good. So let's see. How does that look when all is said and done? Yeah, okay. That's extremely cheaty, and it does not look realistic. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's probably gonna actually. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of this and see how that looks. Okay, but let's see how this looks. Okay, that's a little bit less unrealistic. We'll go with that. So the reason you want to be careful with the add shader, right, is it just literally adds the brightness of two things together, which means that you
Mm.
can get more light bouncing off of an object than the object is receiving in the first place. Which is unrealistic, in case you're wondering. Because this breaks the
Yeah.
laws of thermodynamics.
That's all right. They're not really laws, are they? They're more like suggestions.
No, they're definitely laws. It just doesn't matter in this case.
That's not what the Yext or the Flurfs say.
That's true. It's not. All right. So here's the next thing we're gonna do.
Also, I think in Star Trek you can always reverse the Polaron flow across the deflector shield something.
Don't we have? Are we? Do we not? Are we out of swooshes? No, there's one right there. Why are they? Why are they being weird? Why aren't they looking like how they looked before? I don't appreciate this.
You put a lot of work into those swooshes, and they just disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck is going on with that. Okay, there's some more there. We'll add some more. Let's put this. Let's just crank it to 15. See what happens. No, that's fine. That's got some swooshes in there, whatever they are. All right. Yeah, I don't know why that's being weird. It just is. I could troubleshoot it. I don't care enough. It looks fine, therefore it is fine.
It's good enough for an 8-second shot.
Right? All right. So let's take a look at how this looks. Well, we're gonna switch this playback to frame dropping.
We had something like that when I was at the doing the Dungeon Master stuff at the game store. One of our newer Dungeon Masters was like, well, what about this? What about this? Well, what about this? I'm like, it's cool. Your players are going to go through that for like 2 seconds. None of them are going to notice that you don't have like backgrounds for all 500 NPCs. It's cool. Have like 2 ideas in your head for like the one NPC they tend to talk to, but everybody's life story is not important.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to be the next shot that we use. We've been going for about almost 2 hours, so I think we're going to probably call it here. Thank you so much. The next step is I'm just going to put this on Sheepit, and it's going to render 250 frames. I will drop it in, and yeah, that'll be that.
Nice.
Hey, if you like this, make sure you hit the like button. If you didn't like it, I don't know, hit the dislike button. Do subscribe. That's important.
The
That
algorithm
helps.
doesn't care.
Yeah, the algorithm treats both of those things as exactly the same. So do whichever one you want. And yeah, I hope you guys had fun. And I'll talk to you later. Plus, other people are starting to message me. I think other people are vying for my attention. So,
Yeah.
You're not allowed your attention. It's all
I
for
know.
Star Trek.
It's just, yeah, I know.
Dapper is a busy dino.
It's true, actually. I looked away from the Science Friends chat once for like 2 hours, and I came back. It had 80 notifications.
Oh wow!
People have too much time.
Oh, 80. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I will see y'all later, and stay safe out there.
Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.
Bye all.
Okay, we're out.
Woohoo.
Yay!